Hi, I'm Dorothy. Are you ready to dive deep into one of the bougiest zip codes in the country? The good, the bad, the ups and downs, the real and the not so real. This is That Greenwich Life. Welcome back to another episode of That Greenwich Life. I'm your host, Dorothy Cascerceri Simone, and thank you so much for tuning in again this week, listening to the show. And also, it's on YouTube, and there have been some viewers on YouTube, so you can always head over to YouTube also and see what's going on in the studio if you want a visual to what you're hearing. And also, of course, my Instagram at Dorothy on TV. That is definitely a visual that gives you a little bit more insight into That Greenwich Life and what it's all about. What a week, few weeks it has been. I don't know what's going on, but there have been several situations where I feel like I have whiplash because life is just throwing me in so many different directions and so quickly. Like all these things just kind of keep happening. So I guess, let me think about this. It started probably, I'm not going to have the chronology right because it's all a blur, but it's like everywhere I turn, there's something happening off of the heels of something amazing happening. So I'm feeling like, oh my gosh, this is so great. I'm so happy. I'm so at peace. And then something comes in and it's like, oh, no, girl. Nope. Sorry. You're not going to be at peace. Like, get up, pay attention, get upset. Like you need to react. You need to be angry. Or it's the other way around. Like something's happening and I'm devastated and so upset and just like, what am I going to do? What is life right now? And then something else happens, like a second later. And it's like, oh my gosh, but look at this really amazing, happy thing that's happening. So I want to kind of break this down because it all goes back to that duality that I always talk about is so important to hold in life and in situations and in scenarios and relationships especially. Duality is really the ability to experience kind of two things at once and to be able to not just label our days as, oh, well, I had such a good day today, or I had such a bad day today. No day is good or bad. No person is good or bad. There is a mixture of everything and of both really at all times. And this has been a hard lesson for me to learn. And it's off the heels of doing so much hard work in therapy and, with following a lot of really great thought leaders who are pioneers in this idea of, like not everything has to be, I'm so happy, I'm so upset. I'm so happy, I'm so upset. Like that roller coaster of life doesn't have to be something that you're riding. It's really up to you. And it's about the way that you tell yourself about what's happening and the way that you label what's happening. So, all right, so let's start with a couple of weeks back, I was tapped to MC this amazing event in New York City at the Smith in Tribeca, which is a great hotel, by the way. Next time I go into the city for an overnight, I'm 100% staying there. It was for Posh Mom, which if you don't know Posh Mom Live is an incredible shopping site for moms. Everything is very carefully curated. So unlike Amazon, where you go on and you have like 17 different versions of the thing that you're trying to buy, and half of them are absolute garbage, Posh Mom is all things like for moms and families and things like that are vetted by their fabulous founder, Jarrah Landon. And it's just a really, really fun way to find better products and better businesses to support than all of this, garbage on Amazon. So I was hired by Posh Mom to do this event with The Real Real, which is also, if you're not familiar with The Real Real, there's actually a location right here on Greenwich Avenue in Greenwich. And it's a great place to buy and consign designer clothing, bags, jewelry, accessories, all the things. So it's a great way to practice sustainability and then also, get some cash in your pocket for some of your designer things that are just collecting dust in your closet, or to purchase something that's gently used or used before designer without having to pay like the full sticker price of, a brand new designer bag or whatever. So anyway, it was two amazing brands that I was happy to align with. And I got tapped to MC this event. And I do a lot of speaking engagements. Just a few months ago, I was hired by RMA New York, which is a fertility clinic, to moderate a panel for them located in Scarsdale, New York, which is very close to Greenwich. And it was all about pregnancy loss and infertility, which, as you all know, if you're just tuning in, if you're not just tuning in, as you all know, is something that I struggled with deeply for about almost 5 years. And you can head back to previous episodes to hear more about that. But this is something I do quite a bit, but this event actually had something a little bit unusual about it. And that was the fact that I was asked to bring my daughter, who's 17 months old, with me. Now, I don't typically bring my kids to work with me. But as you know, on That Greenwich Life, I did bring my son, Nicholas, to work with me, and he is a guest on That Greenwich Life. If you head back, two episodes, I think. That was a really fun bring your child to work day. But my daughter is 17 months old. She is very squirmy. She is very, very vocal and loud. And I really didn't know how I was going to juggle, doing this event and speaking at this event in front of all these people with also having my baby. So the car came and picked us up. We got in the car. My daughter is like #celeb level, because there was an adorable outfit for her waiting in the car from Little Blueberry Kids, which is an adorable website. They have amazing children's clothing. Definitely check that out. But anyway, so she had this amazing little outfit for her. I mean, I've gone to many, many events throughout the years. I worked in celebrity news. I have a decades-long TV career, more than decades long. And I have had a lot of designers send dresses to my home and apartment, but I've never actually gotten into a car service on my way somewhere with an outfit ready for me to wear. It's like very like Pretty Woman style. But anyway, so got her to the event. The event was so fabulous. We talked about a lot of really amazing products and brands and companies that make wonderful baby products and products for kids. And the event was just awesome. It had the suite at the Smith Tribeca had this gorgeous outdoor terrace. So you really felt like you were in New York City. And, I'm like riding the high of all this great energy in the room. Everyone's having such a great time. I ended up winning this game that we played, Faux or Real. And I ended up winning a gift card to the Real. So like, I'm riding high. I am living large. Like, I'm feeling really good about this. I have my baby girl with me. Like, life cannot be better. And I sit down to just kind of take a load off, because I was in these heels all day. And I sit down, I finally put Gemma my daughter in her stroller, so she can just chill for a little bit and not be running around the entire party, getting into all sorts of things. And I poured myself a glass of mom juice, which is also, by the way, this amazing wine, and such a fun label, mom juice, like we all need our wine at times. And I'm like sitting down, chatting. I am relaxed. I am at the height. You know where this is going, right? Like, nothing is as you expect it in the mom world. And so I get up because the driver is downstairs. I stand up and my daughter vomits literally all over herself, all over the stroller, all over everything, like loads and loads of throw up. And meanwhile, my car is waiting for me downstairs. I have to get home to my son, who's 8. And I'm just like, you've got to be kidding me. Luckily, the suite had a bathroom, and I had her little baby shampoo and soap in my bag, because I like to keep it with me in case we end up at the pool or at someone's house and then I want to shower her. And so like, luckily, and these interns were so great. They were helping me clean everything up, and I got her in the bathtub and I got her changed into some spare clothes. But just like, are you kidding me? Like, I am finally at a place where I'm relaxed. My job is done. But frankly, as a mom, is your job ever done? Your job is never done. And so as it turned out, she enjoyed one too many macaroons. And like me, I get it. The girl likes sugar. She likes sweets. She likes dessert. But while I was doing my thing and, she was being minded by some of the girls, I guess they just gave her a lot of, sweet treats. And for baby stomachs, as you know, they can't handle it. So that was just like, well, I feel exhausted just telling that story. But that was just one example of how you go from like this high to this like, oh my gosh, I have to jump into action and I have to like do all the things and respond and have kind of this like negative feelings or all this concern and all this worry. And it really made me feel like I had whiplash in a way. And by the way, she wasn't sick. She didn't have a stomach virus. It was nothing like that. It was just too much sugar, as I'm sure we can all relate to. But it really had me thinking about this kind of concept that like we all go through this, right? Where life might be calm and then all of a sudden like a storm rolls in. And sometimes you feel like you're caught off guard and you don't even really know what to do. Now, this situation was funny and it was laughable, although the me of 8 years ago, the mom of 8 years ago that I was, if it was my son at 17 months that I took to this event, I guarantee you, I'm not proud of her, but I guarantee you that girl, that mom, she would not be laughing. She would be upset, really flustered, angry maybe, unable, like kind of in like a freeze state, unable to kind of like, know what to do in the situation. And also, I know the old me, that girl, she would have also labeled most likely the event as like, oh my gosh, it was so horrible. You're never going to believe what happened, and go right to that story. And that's not healthy. And it took me a long time to figure out that is not healthy. But it also, led me on my path of healing my nervous system. And by the way, it's not healed. I say this a lot. It's not healed because it never is. It's always a process. It's always something that I'm working on and working at. But that day in particular, riding back to Greenwich and, like with my daughter, and I was feeding her some Ritz crackers. She loves them. And just crossing my fingers and praying that she would not throw up all over herself in the car seat in this car that was not mine, that did not belong to me. I was just thinking to myself, like, wow, that event was incredible. Like, what a great day. I feel so lucky and so blessed and fortunate to have gone to work, to have brought my daughter, be surrounded by all those fabulous people, to be talking about and promoting these wonderful brands. Most of them are women-owned, mother-owned, and just be, doing all of that in New York City, a place that I love, where I lived for almost 13 years. My son was born in New York City. It has such a special place in my heart. And I was really proud of myself. I still continue to be proud of myself for the way that I show up when I have work obligations, because it's hard and I'm very distracted by my kids and by everything that I'm juggling. So I was filled with so much goodness and positivity and gratitude. And the throw up situation was kind of just like a blip on the radar that I had to laugh at. But believe me, it took me a really long time to get here. So I wanted to talk to all of you about this kind of idea that, we can hold both. Like, we can always hold the duality of situations. And if you feel like this is something that you have a lot of trouble with, I want to read something from somebody that I admire so much, somebody who has been a pioneer for me, a leader for me on my healing journey, Dr. Nicole LaPera. I'm not sure if you know of her, if you've heard of her. She has a book that is so life-changing. And I don't read a lot at all, guys. I don't have time to read really at all. I would love to get back into reading. Maybe when my daughter, my 17-month-old daughter gets a little bit older, I will. But this book single-handedly changed my life and my path. And it's called How to Do the Work. And it's titled perfectly, by the way, because enough of us are not doing the work. We don't have time. We don't care to. We don't want to better ourselves to better our relationships with others. But for those of us who are doing the work, and those of us who are even thinking about doing the work, this is a book that I highly, highly recommend. And she has an incredible Instagram as well, The Holistic Psychologist. And she talks a lot about the mind and body and how they're related. And I'm telling you, so much of what she has shared has helped me heal my nervous system. And so I love this kind of like idea that she gives us permission to freak out, and be completely upset and crazy in the head and reactive, because I need that permission, because I think sometimes I go back to that very binary labeling, like, oh my gosh, I am not proud of myself today because I freaked out about this one thing and I had this huge reaction and I could have done better and I could have taken a deep breath and breathed, and I could have reacted better. But the fact of the matter is, sometimes our reactions and like jumping into, a response is a healthy thing, and it's okay. It doesn't mean that, like I reacted badly or poorly, or I'm back to being broken again and I haven't been practicing what I've learned or any of those things. Like, we don't have to label ourselves in this way, because we can be both. We can be healing and we can be working hard on ourselves and working hard on our nervous systems. And we can also be really dysregulated at times. So I just want to read this really quick. So she wrote, sometimes, this is from her Instagram, by the way, which I'm obsessed with. Sometimes your emotions need to be dysregulated. When someone disrespects you, violates a boundary, or when you're heartbroken, dysregulation is actually a healthy sign that you're connected to your own emotional experience. Being regulated doesn't mean that you're always calm. I love that. Being regulated doesn't mean that you're always calm. So you can still be regulated, but you can also fall out of your calm space. And that's okay. You're human. We're all human. So we're not perfect and we're not robots. And, like going back to what I was saying about how I feel so much of this whiplash lately, I had another situation, two actually. I hate to say that I had two, but I did have two, where I got a call from camp that my son, who is 8, he learned how to do the backflip because he joined the dive team this summer, which I'm very, very proud of him. He's an incredible swimmer, and he swims year round and loves swimming, and he feels so at peace in the water. And I really am so glad that he's found something that makes him so happy and gives him so much life force. But he joined the dive team. And when he said he wanted to join the dive team, I'm like, proud of you. And I didn't say this to him, but I'm like a mother. So I worry. And dive team means diving board. Diving board means jumping off of it. Jumping off of it means some kind of a, hurting yourself, hurting your head injury. My stepdad, he had a really traumatic freak fall 3 years ago, and he has been in a wheelchair since, and he ended up with a spinal cord injury. And so it hits really close to home for me. So that's something that I'm always really worried about. And of course, the diving board is something that brings up those fears for me. But anyway, he learned how to do a backflip. He was all excited, came home from camp. I'm so excited about it. I'm so happy. I wanted to be supportive. But then 2 days later, he got up on the board, did the backflip, and I got a call from camp that he hit his head on the diving board on his way down. And I'm just like, it is just the worst nightmare you could possibly think of. So of course I'm going right into mommy mode. Okay. Like, was he conscious? Did he have to be carried out of the pool? Was there blood? Is there a laceration? Like, did he know his name? Was he able to count to 5 when he, came to, like, all these things? And the answer to all the questions was he remained conscious. He wasn't knocked out. There was no blood. There was like a small scrape on his head, on his scalp. But he was able to swim to the side. He was able to get out of the pool. He knew what day it was. He knew his name. He was completely cognitive, all these things. It still doesn't mean that then I am not petrified about him having a concussion, because a concussion is something that can develop, over the next 24 to 48 hours. I kind of knew the drill about this because he went sledding back in February and went headfirst into a stone wall. So, I mean, like, this is just my reality. And I just know so much about head injuries, I guess. But the kid has a head like a goddamn cannonball, because this is like 2 head injuries. Actually, no, 3, because last summer he was doing the backstroke, and instead of leading with his hands right into the side of the pool, he led with his head, and the entire pool heard the sound. Okay. So I'm getting myself worked up here because head injuries are just happening a little bit too much for my liking, for this mom's liking. But you can totally relate if you're a mama or a dad and you get worried about these kinds of things. So I get the phone call that he ended up with this head injury. And while it sounds okay, I say okay, because like, I'm not convinced until, 48 hours, like 72 hours pass. While it sounds okay, I'm still like really, really upset, on the verge of tears. My husband was gone golfing the entire week in Scotland. I mean, How much more Greenwich can you get than that? On a guy's golf trip to Scotland. And I'm home, and thank God my best friend, who you all have seen here on the podcast, Allison Seponera, the anxiety healer. She was in episode 4 about imposter syndrome. If you look back, she was staying with me. So I did have some moral support there. But in the same breath that I was told that he has this injury, and I am grabbing my keys and literally running out the door, like needing desperately to hold my baby in my arms. He's 8 years old, but I still call him my baby. I am then informed by this person calling me that there was a major behavior problem at camp with my son, and that he did something where he did not exercise a good choice. And I'm not going to share what it is because I do have to respect his privacy somewhat, but I am going to share that there was a behavior problem, because I'm not going to sit here and try to pretend to all of you that my kids are perfect. I'm not going to try to sit here and pretend that I'm perfect, because Lord knows we are all the farthest thing from perfect. So while there are certain things that I don't want to share because they are personal, there still are things that happen. And, you know, my son, up until this point, he has really not had to be punished for much. And that, I will say, is something that day in and day out, I've never taken for granted. It's not because we don't punish. It's not because we're, you know, these like hippie type parents that don't believe in consequences and discipline and things like that. But there's just really never been a situation where he has really done something so egregious, where he needs something taken away, or, you know, he needs to be sent to his room. So like, we're definitely lucky, very, very lucky in that respect, but we really try to encourage him with positive reinforcement and not negative. And I think that a lot of that kind of keeps him, you know, in line. He's a very good-hearted person and a very good-hearted child. And so, you know, I do think that he tries to kind of stay on the straight and narrow. And, but this call was very, very alarming and very jarring, finding out that there was this like major behavioral thing. And luckily it wasn't anything, you know, unkind or mean to others, because frankly, bullying is really high up there on my list of things that I worry about as a mother. Whether it's my son bullying someone else or my son being bullied, I think there's really no place for unkindness. And certainly there's conflict between people, but I think you have to really lead with the idea that you're going to try your best to be nice. But this was something that was still quite serious and a true lack of judgment and a bad choice. And it really shocked me because I'm not used to this with my son. So in the same moment that I am like crying, running out the door with complete and utter panic that he slammed his head on the diving board, I'm also finding out that he did this thing. And now like I, you know, under normal circumstances, like I feel like mad, I feel disappointed, I feel like really shocked by the fact that he made this choice. And now I have to figure out how to deal with that. So like, on one hand, I'm trying to figure out if he's okay. Like, that was such a close call. The fact that he is okay with the diving board, like that could have gone so much worse. Like a million things could have happened. And then on the other hand, like, you know, I want to have a very like stern talk with him when I pick him up and figure out what in God's good name got into your head that you decided to do this, because this was a terrible decision on your part. So like holding these two things at once and having this whiplash, it's intense. It's a really intense experience. And I know the reason I'm talking about it in this episode is that I know that I'm not the only person that goes through these situations. And I gave 2 examples where it was about my kids. But you know, there's lots of other examples that don't have to do with my kids. And I know that if you're listening, you can 100% relate to this. And there's something just recently that you've gone through where you're kind of like being tossed. You feel like you're a boat, you know, in rough water, and you're just being tossed this way and then tossed that way. And you know, in the first example that I gave about the event, I was like on this like super duper high, and then this like super duper like low, like panic. Oh my God, she's throwing up. What am I going to do? And then in this situation, you know, I was just kind of having a day, and of course things were very busy because my husband was out of town. But I was just having a day, like a regular day, and then I find out this super super scary thing that I'm so upset, so nervous, so anxiety ridden, and then I find out this super like shocking thing that I'm just thinking to myself like, and my mind is just going insane. And so on my drive over to pick him up, my mind is working overtime. And like, I don't feel calm. I don't feel calm at all. I feel completely dysregulated. I feel like I want to cry, but then I don't want to cry right when I pick him up. I feel like I want to yell, but I don't want to like yell at him because, you know, like that's like what our parents did. My husband always say like, that's what our parents did. And like, we don't really want to, you know, discipline our kids in a way that is detrimental. Like, you know, there certainly is a way of talking very firmly, but I don't want to be screaming like a lunatic, even though that's what me as a person, like my nervous system wants to scream. I have a long history of having a really, really hot, bad temper. You know, I'm Italian people. So like, you know, I used to lean on that, but frankly, what it was a really dysregulated nervous system. And I try not to do that in these days. Sometimes I do, I'm not perfect, but I try not to. And so I'm going through like all these emotions at once, and it's hard. It's really hard in these situations. So I had only a short drive over to the camp, and I just tried to tell myself like, okay, like everything is okay. Like you are safe. More importantly, your son is safe. The reason I was telling myself that I was safe is because this is something I learned a few years back, that when you feel like you're coming into a heightened state, when you feel like your nervous system is popping off like a 4th of July firework, it's because your body thinks that you're in like a fight or flight mode, and you don't necessarily have to be. Like fight or flight is really only supposed to be like when there's danger. But unfortunately for many of us, for all of us, I might go ahead and say, I don't know you if you're listening personally, but I'm going to say for all of us, you know, like you typically will go into this state not when you're in danger, because your nervous system is dysregulated and needs a lot of healing. And so I just tried to tell myself like you're safe. See, I'm even like losing my breath right now, like talking about this. And it's not because I'm talking a mile a minute. It's because like the emotions are coming up where I'm explaining this to you so vividly, and I'm almost kind of reliving it, and it feels stressful. So I have to remember to breathe. And in this car ride, I was talking to myself. I was talking out loud to myself in the car and saying, okay, everything is okay. Like Nicholas is okay. He is seemingly okay. If he ends up with a concussion, we will cross that bridge when we get to it. Right now, he is seemingly okay. The other situation, nobody is hurt. Nobody is hurt. Nobody's life is in danger. Like it was a bad choice, but it's a bad choice. And these kids are kids, and they are never going to be perfect. And you can never expect that from them. Like I need to breathe. I need to calm down. And when I get there to pick him up, I need to focus, number one, on him being safe from this horrible accident that happened. And then I need to go into disciplinary mom mode. And then I need to figure out what to do next. So this helped me tremendously, but the whiplash is real. And so I just like, you know, I think an old version of me in a situation like this would basically just say like, oh my God, I had the worst day. You'll never believe what happened. And by the way, if you're saying you'll never believe what happened, you are too attached to your stories. I'm a storyteller, so I'm not talking about all stories. But when you're saying you'll never believe what happened, I had the worst day, you are too attached to that bad thing that happened, and you are not able to focus on the good things in the day and the positive things in the day. And even sometimes you're not able to focus on the things that are quote unquote bad that might necessarily be leading you somewhere better. And what I needed to really focus on, guys, because at the end of the day, this is more important than any kind of bad judgment, is the fact that my boy was safe. He was not unconscious. He was not being taken off in an ambulance. I mean, he did not end up with some kind of a worse injury, which I had mentioned before. And so that's what you really have to figure out. And also, the thing that I want to talk about as well is the fact that you have to process these things. Yes, I remained calm. Yes, I stayed calm. I kept my wits about me. But let me tell you, after I had a whole conversation with him, after I got home, got him comfortable, after I did got the baby up from her nap and changed her diaper and got her some water and a snack. And after I did all these things and moved around like a shocked robot from this whole ordeal, I went down and saw my friend who was in her room at my house. And I just started hysterically crying and I just lost it. And I really, really needed to do that. And I was so grateful that she was there to be there with me to be able to do that, because it's not a sign of weakness. Like you can't possibly hold it all together. And when all of these things happen and our nervous system is so tweaked, we have to be able to have that outlet and we have to be able to really deal with those emotions. And back to my friend, I call her my friend. I don't even know her, but I call her my friend because I feel like I know her, Dr. Nicole LaPera, the holistic psychologist. She wrote, "It's a healthy sign that you have many periods during your day where you're not calm or feeling grounded. It shows you're not in autopilot or in a freeze state. Having the ability to regulate your emotions means that you can express all emotions and then recover from them." And that's what I was lacking for almost 38 or 9 years of my life, the ability to recover. I would stay in that state all day long. I would stay in that state. I would be stuck in this anxious, depressed, overstimulated, overworked state. And we just have to really keep a close eye on this kind of thing, because guess what? We're going to get these phone calls. We're going to have these unexpected things happen. That's the norm. Going into your day and thinking that your day is going to be the way that you expect it to be, that's a fool's errand, because that's not the norm. The norm is to go into your day and realize that most likely some things are going to change and you have to remain flexible and you have to really practice that flexibility. So before we go, I want to give you your weekly work on. Our weekly work on here on That Greenwich Life is just like a weekly workout, something that we do that keeps our body in shape. This is something, our weekly work on, that keeps our minds in order, that keeps our minds in balance and our lives a little bit more peaceful than we left them. And it takes these little tiny things, these little efforts that we do week in and week out. And you have to just start somewhere. You have to start with even just one small effort. And this week, I want you, when something comes up where there's two things that you're feeling so happy about something, and in the next moment you're feeling like, I can't believe that this thing just crashed my happiness. I want you to try to reframe that in your mind. I want you to try to think about the fact that the thing that crashed your happiness, quote unquote, it actually didn't crash your happiness. Your happiness is still there. The thing that you feel good about and the thing that you feel happy about, it's all still there. The two things have to exist together. So I want you to create space for the good. I want you to create space for the bad. And I want you to take the time to breathe, to quiet the stories. And so that when you do have to deal with these situations, you're able to, and you're able to just calmly deal with it and not label your day as, oh God, I had the worst day today. Because chances are, unless something extremely tragic happened, something extremely, extremely traumatic happened, like for me, when I had my 20-week anatomy scan and I found out the absolute worst thing about my baby. On a day like that, you can say I had the absolute worst day today. But when these smaller things come up, I want you to really try to not label yourself and not label the way that you're feeling and to not label your day. Thank you guys so much for listening to this week's That Greenwich Life episode. I so appreciate it. Please listen on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Audible, iHeartRadio, wherever you listen to your podcast. And please go on, leave us a review, leave me a comment. Really, really appreciate it. Also follow me on Instagram at DorothyOnTV and my website, DorothyOnTV.com. I so appreciate all of your support. And I do this show for all of you. And also, by the way, YouTube, we got episodes on YouTube now and we have some viewers, so it's pretty cool. Anyway, remember, like I always say, don't just live your life, love it.